thousands of years, elders and knowledge keepers have used stories to educate future generations. Stories and words can help heal our hearts and make Mother Earth a better place for all people. This is Healing Hearts.
Hello everyone, welcome to Healing Hearts. I'm Tracy Koga. Tonight we celebrate youth. We find out what really matters to them and how they are going to make a difference in our world. So let's start the conversation with Healing Hearts, but first, a word from our sponsors.
So the Hive is a climbing and fitness facility, so we're bouldering only, which means no ropes or harnesses. We use mats for protection. The four pillars of our business are climbing, education, health and wellness, and community, and those aspects all kind of come together to create like a 5-star climbing experience.
Once again, a very special thank you to our sponsor, The Hive. It's a climbing facility, and boy, it is a lot of fun. So now I'm going to welcome all of our guests tonight. It's going to be, I think, a really important conversation, not only for us to share, but I think to share with others. I think having conversations like this is getting to be more and more important because it is a learning process for all of us. So these are our young people. This is our future. I want to welcome Kylie, Luladay, Maya, Ashling, Nina, and Durst, or Alexina, sorry. I guess I'm going to start it off with everybody sharing their story. You know, something that deeply moves you, something that you really want to share, and also being in a safe place to have that conversation. And I want everybody else to join in that conversation. So I'm going to go with Nina. Welcome, Nina, to Healing Hearts. Oh, Nina, you're muted. Sorry, you just have to unmute yourself. And I'll remind everybody you can unmute. Nina, you're muted. So just unmute yourself. Oh, we have no audio from her. Let's try Kylie.
Kylie is good. She can speak.
Kylie, you can go ahead. There's no audio.
Oh. Okay, there we go.
No. Yeah, go ahead, Kylie.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Kylie.
Yeah, we got you
You
now. Yes.
got me?
Yes.
So like I said, my name is Kylie, and I am. My story is that I am a Métis person. I am proud to be Métis, and I'm proud to share my culture with children who are still trying to figure out what their story is, where their journey is, and I love sharing my culture. I love teaching jigging and square dancing to youth and just helping them bring out their culture or their spirit.
And also too, I think through this journey, Kylie, you've really embraced who you are as Métis, right?
Yes, very so. I wasn't so when I was younger. I was a little scared to come out a little bit because of the stories that you would hear and when you were little. And I had the opposite effect, that I wasn't dark enough to be Métis or First Nations. And I wanted to be proud, but I couldn't come out as it. But now I am happy to be Métis and share it with my family and jig with my sister and my dad because of my papa. And I'm hopefully going to be able one day share that with either my children or even my niece or nephew one day.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Nina, okay, so we'll go back to you now. Hopefully we got audio. Go ahead, Nina.
Hello, is this coming through now?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. So yeah, thank you so much for having me on the show. My name is Nina, and my parents are immigrants from Vietnam. So I grew up in the West End, and growing up in a public school setting and being in that neighborhood, I really saw how community helped my family prosper and how community really supported my family as immigrants. So later on in my high school years, I got involved in an organization called the Youth Parliament of Manitoba. And I'm here with someone else from the organization, Alexina. So both of us are part of Youth Parliament. And that was really my first introduction to how politics has an influence on what supports we're able to give in the community, how policies have a very real effect on the lived experiences of people. And so that led me to then get a degree in political economy. And then now I'm currently doing my master's in international development with a focus on how to support migrants and refugees and asylum seekers. So I'm really excited to be here, and I'm just honored to be able to contribute to the youth who are trying to make Canada and this world a better place to live in.
Well, and this is so exciting because that was one of the things that I wanted to talk about with everybody here is like, how do we start a movement? Well, we start right with getting youth into politics. And this is wonderful. So welcome, Alexina, I guess, too, and let's share your story and I guess the power of voice and what it's given you.
Hi. So when referring to, like my story, so just like Kylie, I am also Métis. And I have a very similar story to that. So even now in my family, we're often, unless you really know the person that you're talking to, it's always, oh, well, just tell them that you're French. Don't tell them that you're Métis because you don't know what's going to happen from that. And it's only just recently that I've really been able to proudly say, yes, I'm a Métis woman. This is who I am. This is who I am in my community. And that really came from, an injustice that happened to my family. So currently in Canada, a big portion of the injustices that Indigenous people face have to do with the child welfare system and the overrepresentation of Indigenous youth in the child protection agencies all throughout Canada. Unfortunately, my brother was misdiagnosed and wrongfully put into the care of Child and Family Services, much like happened to many other Indigenous children. Now, this really sparked my passion for politics and, how can we make a change in these systems that will actually last and that will actually stay there and that cannot be easily reversed. And that led me to get involved with Youth Parliament of Manitoba through the Gary McLean Scholarship Fund, which is available to Indigenous youth. And, really through that, I learned how to express myself further and how to really, give change an actual voice.
Oh, wow. Can I ask, Alexina, where is your brother now? Are you together?
So, yeah. So it took almost 2 years to get him back home. He was taken into care at the age of 6 months old, and we got him back when he was just about 2 years old. And, it's unfortunate because it was a very lengthy battle, a lot of court time. And we were very lucky that my parents had put away a lot of savings because, legal fees are very expensive. And that's something that a lot of families just cannot afford, especially when you have to go through the court system to get these children back to their homes.
Oh, wow. What a story. And thank you for sharing. Lula Day, welcome to Healing Hearts.
Hello everyone, my name is Lula Day. Thank you so much for having me. I came to Canada from Italy when I was 12. And I grew up mostly in Winnipeg. And then I decided to go into social work because I really wanted to work with newcomers and refugees. Being a newcomer myself, I was well aware. I'm very aware of some of the barriers that are present in our community. So I was that inspired me and pushed me to get involved in social work. I've been working with IRCOM, the Immigrant and Refugee Community Organization of Manitoba, for about 3 years. And currently I'm completing my master's at U of M for social work as well. And I am, this job as a social worker and working in a community a settlement community organization really taught me the importance of community, as many of us have already said. How that's really community mobilization and coming together. That is really what has more effect on making more noise and making policy changes and making better decisions, and also empowering individuals and families. Uh, I've seen the importance of that through my work quite a bit. And yeah, I'm really excited to be here and have a conversation with everyone. Thank you.
I just wanted to ask you, Luladay, since you've come here to Winnipeg, Manitoba, what's your, I guess, interpretation or your thoughts and feelings on the people of Manitoba?
I think the people of Manitoba, it was I can speak about my own experience as a newcomer. Um, we it was There were a lot of resources. We came from a country, Italy is a place where there isn't a lot of resources for newcomers. So when we came here, we were very grateful for many of the services that were available, much of the help that we received, whether it was for me in schools or for my parents in the workplace. But working with communities and newcomers now or refugees, I know that there's still a lot of work to be done. So we are on the right track, I think, but I think there's always room for improvement.
Yes, most definitely. Well, we'll definitely talk about that as well. I'm going to go to Durst. Welcome, Durst. You're in amongst all these ladies here tonight.
Yeah, thank you. Hi. Thank you for letting me be here. My name's Durst. I'm First Nations, and I was born in Little Grand Rapids. I am now outside of the city of Winnipeg in the little town called St. Genevieve. I don't know what stroke. I've been doing well in school. I will be completing grade 12 this year, and I'm kind of actually proud of that.
For sure, that's great.
And I've been in CFS for most of my life, and 23 different placements.
Wow.
Um,
But you're happy
it's
now?
a bit, yeah, I've been at this place for 4 years at this point.
Ah. And so,
I mean, sorry, I didn't hear you.
no, maybe just, I was just wondering why are you so happy? And you've been in this place for 4 years. What makes it so special? Makes this place special?
My foster parent. For past foster parents that I've had with these 23 places I've been at, he's been understanding. He's been there for me at certain times. Whenever I needed to talk, he would be ready for it. And for those past foster parents that I've had weren't like those, like my current foster parent.
Wow. Well, and I guess too, what would you like to do in the future, Durst? Once you finish grade 12?
I would like to help people, kids that are in foster homes, kids that are just like a support worker or just therapy for Indigenous people.
Oh, that's great. Is there anything else that you want to share with us? Was there a story that you wanted to share?
Yeah, I do. I have a story. I I have um, I have a family that are in a bad past situations with residential schools. My grandma being in it, for example, as well too. My parents experienced what abuse they've been through, and I guess they turn those memories into our into our lives. It wasn't pleasant enough, the fact that we were abused when we were kids, and the fact that I have experienced that. And one of the first foster parents that I've ever actually had or remembered were very abusive and only was there for the money. And the fact that I'm still here, I get to talk about it a lot to other people that I don't share very much about. So it's very personal, and yeah.
Well, my heart goes out to you, but also your courage, really, because you speak for how many other children out there, right, Durst? That could be in the same situation. So this is all what it's about, is to share your stories, and in hopes that giving hope to others out there that might be going through the same thing like everybody else has here explained, that they're not alone. I think that's been a common theme through all of this, is making people realize that they're not alone, that there are people out there that do care and that have experienced the same. So Maya, you're our last but definitely not least to share your story.
Hi, my name is Maya, and I am a Ojibwe Anishinaabe. I come from the city of Winnipeg, but I live in Ontario today. And my story is that, I guess, coming from a beautiful city and an accepting city like Winnipeg really taught me how to accept myself and see the good in everything, but it also taught me to stick up for myself and be my own best friend when I didn't have anybody else. And having that my grandparents and my great uncles and my great aunts going to residential schools and being survivors, I still get to see them smile and I still get to see them laugh, and it opens my heart. And I guess hearing everybody talk about their degrees and masters and finishing up school. I am finishing up school, but I will be graduating grade 8. I'll be 13, and my job is to be a leader for my little sisters and my little brothers, and as a young woman, to show them that they can stick up for their rights too, and just to be there and be a kid too at the same time.
That's so important, especially for all of you. I mean, I think youth today, we as parents and we as the older generation, just expect you to grow up so quickly and forget what it's like to be a kid. So that's so true, Maya. I'm going to ask or throw it out there. There's been a question. There's a question. Do you ever feel like there's so much in the world that needs to change, and you don't feel like there's enough in you to change, to make a difference, to change? Lula Day, do you want to tackle that one?
Yeah, I think so. I think sometimes, especially in the time of COVID, it's been very overwhelming for all of us. And sometimes it did feel difficult. I think personally for me, my job is when you work with others and help others, when it's a helping profession, it's very, very common to feel sometimes a bit is kind of like helpless or feel like there isn't enough I can do. But again, with COVID, it was even harder. But that's why these forums or coming together with people, even if it's virtually, helps, because then you're able to kind of uh, re-energize and be able to kind of feel that you're not alone if you're helping others, or you feel like you're not doing enough. Being with other people helps you feel like it's collective, it's not just one person.
Well, that's great. Kylie, um, how do you, or have you had the chance to explain either to your friends or other people just about what Métis is, who you are? Have you ever had conversations like that?
Oh yeah, definitely. Some people have the weird impression that you're just French and you're just First Nation. And no, I am European. I'm an Indigenous EA for a school division. So today I went and taught jigging to a bunch of children today, and I always start with my story and how I started. And I always found that you're Indigenous on one side, so that could be Inuit, Métis, or First Nations, and then you have a European other ancestor. So on my side, it's Belgium. So I'm considered Métis, and a lot of the kids were telling me that my mom is Métis, or my dad is First Nations, and my mom's this. And I'm like, so that makes you Métis. So at first, it was hard to explain like what Métis is, and everybody first hears that you're First Nations and all those stereotypes. And my parents' job was always to not let us think those things, is that look at what you're doing right now, and if it wasn't looking at it on a positive way, I probably would not be where I am today. And I told my kids that today, and I'm like, it was a domino effect. I started here, and then it just kept going, like a community. You learn people from your community and people to support you. And I've learned that if they don't take me as I am, then your loss, not mine.
Well, the kids must just love you as a teacher. Okay, so this is to Nina and Alexina then. Politics now. How can we make a change? And I know I asked you all of that question before we started this show, but okay, let's talk. Is it grassroots? Is it like being in a conversation like this, and it's being on a social platform? How can we start, not only conversations but making change? Nina.
Yeah, I definitely believe in the power of grassroots organizing. I think that at the core, communities are what make up the world. You can't have a global system, you can't have a country, you can't have cities without communities that make them up. And so I personally think that the most effective way to first get involved is to find a group of people who have the same values and have the same mission as you to make your community better, and then get involved in either volunteering or working for something in your community. And also getting involved in organizations like Youth Parliament, where you can meet other youth and then create those networks. Because I don't think that you can change a whole city or you can change a whole province right from the get-go. I think it takes that community first, and building, small steps, right? Like working first for a local organization, or working first to organize a rally for your community. I think those small pockets are things that then transcend into larger change. And that, well, it comes back to your earlier question, do you ever get overwhelmed? And I think one person can't tackle everything. They can't, do everything and have everything as their mission. But if you identify one thing that you're passionate about, and you find a group of people who are passionate about climate change, or if you're passionate about immigrant services and settlement, if you're passionate about poverty alleviation, you find that community and that organization that already does that work, and you build on those people, and you build those people around you to do that work.
And so, Alexina, would you ever run for politics?
It's actually something that I'm looking into for the future. Politics is definitely something that has always been an interest to me. Um, so I'm thinking, for myself running politically, um, it'll be a while down the road because I'd like to obtain my law degree first. But it's something that I am definitely going to do in the future.
So if I asked you what your platform would be, what would it be? What would be the one thing or two things?
Definitely, reducing poverty through sustainable housing. And then the second thing, I want to get rid of the Indian Act. I think it's a piece of legislation that is long overdue to have gotten rid of. So that's definitely the two things that I would be running on.
Wow, okay. That's it's a pretty big platform, but I think a very, very interesting one. And so for Maya and Durst, both of you have such, compelling stories and hard stories. Through all of this, well, Durst first, were there any role models that you looked up to growing up?
Yeah. Oh.
Go ahead.
No, you go.
Okay, Maya.
Yeah. Some of the role models were like my grandmother, my granny, and my grandpa. My late grandpa 4 years ago passed away, and he would always tell me that like you're gonna make it. You're gonna be the first person, my first granddaughter, and my first Owinawa is like a first daughter. The first person to go to university and complete or college and complete a degree or a PhD. I really looked up to him a lot, and I look up to my mom for being there, supporting both cultures, Polish and Ojibwe. And I look up to my grandmother too because she teaches me the old traditions, and I look up to my other grandmother who teaches me her traditions. And I feel like that's important that you keep the role models that you have now as long as you can have them.
Oh, great. How about you, Durst?
I didn't have any growing up until I met my mentor, Eddie. He was an interesting person to meet. So in mid-2016, I was in a previous foster home before I was moved here, or the previous other one, well, whichever. Well, I was gone to this one summer. We went to this field trip to Toronto. So my old foster parent took me to a place that I did not know where I was going, obviously, because I was in Toronto. So we went to this one house, a big place. Well, the house was little, but the area was big. So I met this guy. He was a strange guy because he was old and I don't know why. Then my foster parent says, meet Eddie or Edward or whoever. The first thing he said was Hollywood. The name Hollywood was an important thing to actually hear from him. He was a person that changed my act, my life, my mischievous, bad life, I guess. I wasn't much of a good person. I stole, I lied a lot, I ran away a lot, I just got into fights a lot. But he changed my path or outlook. And the fact that he isn't here anymore makes me realize that life is worth living. You have to be happy in order to make yourself succeed. You have to keep going until you know you've done enough. I am trying to my best to have a successful life in order to take care of my younger siblings. If it wasn't for him, then I don't know where I would be. Or I'd probably be in my parents' path at this point. Oh, I guess that I didn't have enough time to actually talk to him much, but we did a lot when I first contacted him in a year or so. This was in 2017. I contacted him in 2018. We talked a lot more. In 2019, that's when I found out that he had cancer. So it was a big change. It was a different thing because obviously he was very important to me.
Mm-hmm.
So my foster parent here right now is the person to go to talk to, obviously.
No doubt.
But I really wanted to I have a lot of questions for him still. And I want to hear from him, but he's not here, obviously. So I'm taking my path in order to go to my success. And I hope it's good.
Can I ask, Durst, what kind of questions would you be asking Eddie right now?
I'd like to know why he named me Hollywood again. He said it once, but not really good memory.
Well, perhaps.
I just.
Nope.
Yeah, no. Fine.
So that's a good question. But maybe he thought there is that shining Hollywood person inside of you. He obviously saw that right away.
Yeah.
So I think you are on the right path. Definitely. And like you said, you have to raise your siblings, so it's like being a mentor. And I think a lot of our guests on the panel too are mentors in a way. I know, Maya, you want to be a mentor for your little sister. Luladay, you're a mentor every day to all of the immigrants. Kylie, you're a mentor to all the children and the students that you see every day. And Nina and Alexina, like on your political platforms or whatever, you're mentors for any of the other little girls or young boys or whoever that want to speak up and have a voice. I do have a question, and this goes to all of you. You're so young. Do people ever say, or do adults or whatever say, stop worrying about that? Like, you're too young to be thinking about that.
The opposite. Not too quick.
Yes.
Because you're older.
Alexina, you're nodding your head.
Yeah, so one of the comments that I would often receive is, oh, well, you're just a youth. You don't actually know. And I received that a lot through many of the things that I would do. A lot of my passions have been focused through the injustices in the child welfare system, as I had previously mentioned. And I remember there were several times in school where, if we had the option to do a presentation on whatever topic we wanted, that's what I would choose, because I would use that as a method of, educating others. And the teachers would often go, oh, well, you're wrong. That's not true. That you can't possibly know that. And that's been happening, right up until last year. As I mentioned before, I'm Métis, but I'm very light-skinned. And I had a teacher say to me, well, you couldn't have actually experienced that since you're not actually Indigenous. And, it's like, oh, well, how does that work then? Just because I'm a youth, just because I look a certain way, just because I'm not a certain age, doesn't mean that I cannot be knowledgeable about a topic, that I can't be passionate about a topic, and that I cannot educate others about a topic.
Oh, I know. Maya, have you felt that resistance? I mean, and you're very articulate on who you are and where you want to go.
Yeah, I was told a lot of the times that, like, you're just a kid, like, you can't do anything about that. You still have a long life to go. But when you're a kid, that's how it all happens. You start making change so other people can see it. And sometimes people don't listen to you because you're a kid. Some people are like, just be a kid, just be a kid. It's all fine. But sometimes, yeah, I can be a kid, but not all the time. I need to start learning grown-up things if I'm going to make change in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And my teachers, they would always look at me like if I did some sort of essay or a presentation, they'd be like, you're just a kid. You don't know this stuff. That's not what happens in the world. How do you know? You're not on the inside. You know what that person's been in their shoes. But I know what's in my shoes. So I know how to get there.
Wow. Luladay, in your position now, actually sometimes the kids have more than their parents, speaking as of newcomers, right? Because they might, be already well versed on computers and be on their cell phones, and going to school and learning English. So how does that kind of dynamic work?
I think, yeah, that happens quite a bit where youth and children are often asked to either interpret for their parents or they're taken to doctor's appointments, and it it um, it it can take a toll on the child and the youth as well because they're already in a new school system. Sometimes there is interrupted schooling because of war or trauma, and they're trying to adjust to a new country, but they're also sometimes feeling the pressure. The family pressure is always huge in newcomer families. Yeah, that happens quite a bit. So that's definitely difficult for youth and children, and that's why I'm always grateful that in my work with families, we have an after school program in our agency, and I'm also able to work with the kids or children when I can. Yeah.
Oh, that's so good. I'm going to switch it up now and talk about mental wellness. And we all have mental health, and definitely it's been put to its biggest test through these last 2 years now, and still going into it. But especially the youth, it has been really hard. Isolation, being away from your friends, disconnect, at-home learning, virtual learning. It's all been, I guess, really compounded things. Let's talk about how you have coped. And you know what? It might have been nothing for you, but if you know of friends and stuff like that, share, I guess, your experience on trying to help them. But Nina, do you have any stories to share on that?
Yeah, well, I currently study abroad. I'm currently in Winnipeg, but I'm doing school abroad. And I was in Geneva, Switzerland last year, September, until this year, January. And I came back because of COVID. But I had gone because the courses were in person starting off in September. And so I had been going to classes in person, and then things shut down because of COVID in the middle of the semester. And I'm very privileged in the sense that I have very healthy mental health. I consider myself, pretty healthy in that sense. But those months that I was in lockdown in a completely different country with literally nobody to talk to, turn to, couldn't really go outside because of COVID. It was just the worst period of mental health I've ever had in my life. And so I found that when I came back to Winnipeg, even though I had, of course, a sense of FOMO, right? Like fear of missing out, I'm not where I thought I would be. I'm not, doing school in the city that I went to do school. I'm not networking. I felt like I wasn't really taking my career to, its full potential. But when I came back, my mental health instantly improved. When I was around my family, when I was in the same time zone with my friends where I could talk to them, I feel that people are the supportive people in your life are the best support that you have in terms of mental health. And I'm so thankful for the support system that I have. And it really, is not just about COVID. I think that having a strong support system is the key to your life in any circumstance, in any point in time. Because growing up, I had a really strong support system, and that was what got me through, really rough times and poor financial situations. And having, a big buddy, a mentor at school, that I think is the most important thing, is to have people around you who can support you. And it's when people are alone and feel that they have no one to turn to, I think that is when mental health gets to its worst state.
Right. Kylie, how have you coped through all of this? And plus, too, you're a teacher too as well, so you got to put on the brave face.
Yes. So I recently just got this job as an EA mid-September, and before that, I worked at a daycare for the last 8 years. So it was tough. We were in the unknown at first. Sorry.
That's okay.
And the kids would just come back, or we would say, "Oh, we're closing daycare for a bit." Why? Where are you going? Are we coming back, or what are we doing? And I'm like, well, we're all still learning. We're all still figuring this out. But keep your heads up, and I will see you again. Mm-hmm. I saw some of these kids when they were little, and I'm with them all day long, and they miss you after a while. So the 3 weeks that we were gone, it was tough. I didn't have my friends at all around me that I see every day, my best friend, and it was tough. My parents were still working because my dad's a bus driver and my mom works for a restoration company, so they were gone all day, and I was home by myself. I didn't have anybody at home. So just talking to my friends and FaceTiming my friends and calling my mom on my lunch and just saying, "Hi, I'm here. I need somebody to talk to." Yeah. And even just going for a walk around the place and just getting out and just having some time to myself, but also just knowing that my friends are still there. They haven't gone anywhere. Like Nina, I'm part of those people that I don't like being not part of something. I hate being alone. I just don't like it. I get anxiety, and just being able to call my friends and just be like, "Hey, can we talk?" and just FaceTime. So having my friends is very important.
Oh, good. Durst, how did you manage through all of the pandemic lockdown?
Nothing actually. Like your parents together in town. I've got to see my parents over in the town, which helped a bit of my life, but with the pandemic, it really hasn't been affecting me as much because I don't really have much to do or say in some sorts.
Did you ever get lonely? Oops, sorry.
Yeah, sometimes, but social media helps. Talking to a lot of friends. I have a lot of friends that I really didn't know that were actually, but to them they were. So I accept to what they say.
Aw. And Maya, how are you coping?
Well, it was very hard for me because over the lockdown, I learned, I kind of lost my dad. He didn't pass or anything. He suffers from addictions and mental health issues. And that was a big change for me. And my brother, he's not doing so well, and I kind of lost him. so that taught me that like I don't want to like end up like them. So it taught me to like get better at it, see the good in it. And yeah, it was hard. Like getting online school every day was hard. Getting up, knowing when you can sleep in, and just being there, I guess, in the time. And being cooped up with 7 of the siblings is hard. Having to share everything and be around people and telling everybody to shh, or telling everybody, go away, this is my time. It was hard, but we got through it. We're still together, and we'll get through it again if it ever happens again.
Wow. So what do you do when you do start feeling down, depressed, maybe feeling a little bit lost?
Music and playing instruments, I think that's a really good tool. And drawing, I like to draw a lot. And reading, like, it may sound boring, but like once you find a book you really like, you can just go away with it. It'll take you to places magical. You can see things from other people's point of view. You can go places, you can imagine things, and like drawing, you can picture things, you can, or even writing too. And music, you can listen to where it takes you, or it can bring back memories. And playing an instrument, just learning new things too. It may take some time, but in the end, you'll have something that you perfected, kind of.
No, that's so true. For you, Alexina, what do you do?
So for myself during lockdown, I really liked lockdown. I like being alone. I like staying at home. That's my thing. But you know, in those times where it got kind of hard and frustrating, and I was just kind of like over it, I would go and I would play my bagpipes as a form of stress relief.
Wow, you should have played them first today.
Oh, you know, I probably could. If you really wanted to. They're super loud though. That was the other thing. You know, they can be heard from like a kilometer away. So, you know, like I would have like neighbors and stuff coming up to me on the street, and they'd be like, "Hey, you're the one who plays the bagpipes. You know, like listen to this song. Could you like, you know, play, you know, like so and so tune?" And you know, it definitely brought me into better spirits, to say the least.
No doubt. I don't know. I just can't picture you playing the bagpipes, though, Alexina. That takes a lot of air, too, doesn't it?
Not so much. It's just like it's not so much air. It's more abdominal strength.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. You know, like once you have the bag full, it only takes about 3 breaths to get it full, and then it's just a thing of like, you know, keeping it there and taking, you know, like, yeah.
Not letting all the air out. This is the control. So there is another question here, and I'm going to go to Durst. So, Durst, if you had one wish, what would that be for you?
I wish for my parents to stop drinking alcohol. A lot of that from my past life affected me, and it's affected my other sibling. So, yeah.
Well, that's a pretty special wish. Little Day, if you had the chance to make change tomorrow, what would be that change and why?
I think I would choose for COVID to be gone. Um, I think as we were speaking about mental health, I think for me too, it was pretty difficult. I'm more outgoing, and I really like spending time with family and friends. In the past year or so, it was very, very difficult to just do my work is very community oriented. So being in front of a computer, it didn't feel the same not getting together with family as well. So that would be my wish.
Oh, I know. We all wish, yes, that we could all be in person one day. For Nina, uh, you had mentioned that you have a privileged life, and you have your a loving home and family. Um, I guess if you wanted to make a change, what would that be?
In the world, or
It could be in the world, it could be in your community, it could be in your family too.
I think it depends on the scope. I have a different answer for all of those things. I think that in the world, it would be to solve world hunger. And I think that presently in the world, we have enough capacity to do that, but it takes the will of governments, it takes the will of people who control capital to devote resources to that, because there are so many people across the world who do not have a potential because they starve. So I think that is my big, like, lofty answer. But in terms of what I would change, maybe in Winnipeg, I agree with Alexina that I think housing is something that is my priority. I think that everyone should have a house. I think that everyone should have access to a house. And I know housing, for example, was a very big issue this past election. But I would love if everyone in Manitoba could have a home. And that comes also with, making mixed housing developments available, and making it so that, housing is more equitable across the province. I think that there's so many things that you can ask, like, what would we change, right? And there are infinite answers, but more than anything, change is a gradual process. It's not something that happens overnight. And so it's really difficult for me to answer a question like, if I could make change, because I hope that, like, all of us here, for example, I can see that all of us are striving to make change in little ways every single day, whether it be by teaching kids jigging or working with immigrants who have just come. It's like those little things that aren't so grand that really do make an impact in others' lives. And maybe that's the biggest change I would hope for, is that everyone's life is better tomorrow than it is today.
Oh, thank you so much. For Kylie, and maybe Alexina too, what, in your own opinions, what do you see that needs to change, maybe not immediately, but sooner than later, on opinions of Indigenous and Métis cultures? Alexina.
So I definitely think that there needs to be a lot of re-education. I think the perception that a lot of people have of Indigenous people is very dated. Even I'm going to go back on a personal experience of mine. I was sitting in an art class, explaining a personal project that I wanted to do, which represented my culture through media. And the art teacher told me, oh, well, you should go to Festival du Voyageur to learn more about your culture. And it's, well, that's not who we are. That's who we were, but that's not who we are anymore.
Oh, good.
And, even with this whole, as much as I am happy about the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation becoming a proper thing, I definitely think that the whole thing around orange shirts is being overplayed. It's important to have those discussions, but we need to have them in the right way. There is a lot of performative activism that takes place in our society, unfortunately, where it's just, oh, well, I'm going to do this so that I fit in and so that I show that I'm supporting, but I don't know what I'm actually supporting. when we look at these discussions, most people don't know the after effects of residential schools with intergenerational trauma and how that affects our Indigenous communities today. You know, a lot of what I was saying before to my friends and family, before they put on their orange shirts, is, you know, if you're going to put on an orange shirt, you need to make sure that you're putting it on for the right reason. You know, you can't put on an orange shirt and say, I support every child matters, and then walk downtown and, you know, when you see your first Indigenous person on the street, say, oh, well, they're just a drunk. Oh, well, they're just an addict. It's no wonder they're homeless. You know, if you're not willing to change your colonial mindset towards Indigenous people, then you shouldn't be participating in these things, such as Orange Shirt Day, such as the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, if you're not going to educate yourself and change your mindset towards that. And that brings back, you know, teaching about Indigenous cultures and actually learning about it in a way that matters.
And that's key. All for change. Kylie, oh, you've got your friend back.
Got my friend. She's probably just gonna sit here.
Yeah.
I agree that we need to have different education. It's still very outdated. I've learned that everybody has a story. There's not just one story, there's many stories. So sometimes my friends would be shocked that I'm talking to someone on the street that looks Indigenous and saying, why are you talking to them? Aren't you scared? Aren't you scared to go downtown and talk to them? And be like, no, like if you were to talk to them, they're probably the nicest people you have ever met. And they're trying to still figure out what's going on. And you might be their shining light for that day, who just took the time out of their day and just to chat with them. I've learned that everybody has a story and that we need to start listening and really paying attention to everybody, past, current, and future. Because you never know where they've come from.
No. And Maya, if you could make a change right now, what would that be, Maya?
I think it would be to get my father back up on his feet so he can be healthy, happy, and my biological sister would be able to see him. And she's 7, and when he left, that took a toll on her. She didn't know where he was going. She didn't know what would happen. So for him to be happy, healthy, and stable, and for us to be able to see him, that would be like winning the lottery 4 times.
Oh, well, you know, all of you have such amazing stories. And we want to thank you for sharing, because I think that's so important, is to share and to learn from each other. All of you have such bright ideas, and I think you know where you're going. So I only send the best of love and good wishes to follow you in whatever your path may be, because you are the future, and don't ever forget it. It's been an incredible conversation, so I want to thank all of you for being here tonight, and thank Immigration Partnership Winnipeg and Knowledge Keeper Clayton Sandy. They are the producers of the show, and it's a pretty amazing ride we've been on. We've had a lot of conversations, and we're just finding that we are just at the very beginning of hearing so many incredible stories. So I would love to have all of you back on again, see where you're at. We'll have an update report. Maybe Alexina will be running in the next, provincial election. I think we're having a provincial election coming up soon, so the door is open. But thank you so much. Thank you so much, Durst, for being here. It was so good to meet you. Thank you, Lula Day, too, as well. And Maya, always good to see you. Thank you, Nina. Good luck in your studies. I'm sure we'll see you at the UN or something like that. And Kylie, we need to see you jigging next time. All right, everyone, have a wonderful evening. Thank you to all of you that have joined us out there, and stay safe and healthy. Good night.
Good night.